Hi everyone, Marcello Monte here for topic 3, which is, of course, what personal, professional, educational biases regarding technologies do we have and how may they impact our educational curriculum efforts. Just a little background on myself. I'm 51 years old. Obviously, throughout my elementary, middle, high school, college years, there was no use of technology. In fact, personally, I did not have a cell phone until the age of 31, 32, right in that window. In fact, I asked my wife, we were trying to remember when we had our first flip phones. I want to say it was like right around 1999, 2000. I look back and, you think about how socially we were without cell phones. I got together with a group of friends this past Wednesday night, and we were all mentioning how lucky we were to grow up in the 70s and 80s without social media and cell phones. Life seems so much simpler. It seems so much more complicated now. And Mason referenced this in his post in terms of social skills and the lack thereof. My wife and I, along with our children, were fortunate enough to go to Ocean City, and we were on the beach, packed. It was July 4th, and I looked around and I said to my wife, take a look. My wife and I were reading a book, and we can count maybe on one hand other people reading an actual book. Most people on their phones. And I think what's happened is it certainly has curtailed social skills, not only in today's youth, because as an 18, I have a parent of an 18, 15-year-old, and it's a challenge. There's no question it's a challenge making sure that they understand that there's limitations. But also I see it in adults these days too, with the constant use of cell phones and access to social media. So in terms of a personal bias, I certainly see how it has impacted predominantly social skills. Now, as far as professionally, I went into education later in my life. I first was in business out of college, and then I decided to go into education. And throughout my 18 years of teaching, starting in 97, then really in the late 90s, early 2000s, you start to see the use of, in the implementation of like starboards. We had the Elmo. But I think what had happened too sometimes, that every year there seemed to be something new that a district would be training you on, and you felt like you had such a varied use of resources, which is wonderful, but you never really got to, as an educator, feel comfortable with any one type of technology as a teacher. So I just felt like it was changing a little too quickly. And I remember, in terms of just myself and research and making sure that you still had those old-fashioned ways, if you will, for kids to research for a project, what have you. Now, I remember in 1977, my parents being so proud when they bought a set of encyclopedias, because my younger brother, my younger sister, at that point were in grammar school, and how proud they were, because back at the time we had no choice but to use atlases, encyclopedias, being able to read a map. You're seeing a lot of that. Those types of skills now lacking. Everything's right at their fingertips. So as far as educational bias, certainly, a lot of advantages. Now, being an administrator, you can see how students take advantage of what's out there, and how the teachers are feeling more comfortable using technology. And I think that, when it comes to education, there are certainly many platforms that you can use to ensure that the children are learning. And obviously, organizing, for an example, online quizzes, which I used to do as an educator myself, motivating students through lectures, and making sure that in terms of what they were exposed to with technology, that they had a varied use of resources. So certainly, whether they were an auditory learner or a visual learner, you were able to tap into what the strengths were for each student. But again, I think there's a fine line. I think we have to be careful, particularly at the elementary, middle school, high school level. And when I left public education, I was a teacher in Rockaway Township, and then I decided to work for the diocese. And my employment started in 2015, and my hours of work were from Sundays through Thursdays. So what I did immediately was I signed up to be on the Wayne Public School sub list. And what I did was on Fridays, I would sub every Friday in the middle school and high school classes. And it really did expose me to different varied learning styles, modalities, if you will, being able to work with kids at different age ranges. Because again, I pretty much throughout my 18 years worked with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And I found that, sometimes you have to be careful, because with technology, certainly you can have kids on a Chromebook, and now, with the trend with technology, everybody's using a Chromebook. It seems like all students have one, that they're using it for the right reasons. They're using it for the purpose of the lesson at hand itself. So, I think it all comes down to the educator too in the classroom. Are they able to manage and have structure within the lesson so that the technological components that are being utilized are utilized efficiently and for the proper use of the lesson itself? Now, with a daughter going to college, certainly, her years of college forthcoming would be far different from when I went. And in the book, I found interesting, it said that asking students what technologies they are using, how and why they are using it, and seeking help in navigating and experimenting with new technologies can greatly increase one's own technological knowledge and competence. I'm looking forward to see how my daughter at 18 years of age will be able to, as a student, one, use the technology that's available on campus, but two, most importantly, are you able to, at that point, also relate the material that you're learning to real life experiences? And I think that's what's lost too sometimes with education is, certainly, yes, technology is important, but are we able to teach our students so that when they are outside of the school building, they are able to problem solve, critical thinking type skills? Are they able to navigate and work in a productive manner so that when they do find the job, they're able to do so and have the skills that they've learned throughout their educational career and have them on a path to success? All right. Looking forward to your responses. Been great reading all your posts. I'll certainly post a couple responses soon. And thank you. Have a great week, everybody.